I got arrested for possession with intent to deliver, and it took me. I went. It was 4 years of absolute hell, just going through the court system. I went to fucking trial. I mean, it was crazy. I should have just pleaded guilty and just. But I didn't know. I was like, I was like this. Oh, you don't snitch on nobody, the drug dealer. I was drug dealer mentality, drug addict mentality. And I absolutely said, I'm not going to turn anyone in. And, I owned what I had to do as a drug addict and dealer. And so eventually, after 4 years of trial and appeals court and everything, I had to go to jail. I ended up going to jail for 2 years. I was in prison, state prison for 2 years, from 96 to 98.
This is Coop's Comedy Corner. Buckle up because it's funny as Coop's Comedy Corner.
Welcome to Coop's Comedy Corner, people. It's Steve Cooper. We're here back for another week with some great talk with some my friends who are comedians. And I got to tell you, you got to check out past episodes on Spotify. Go see Coop's Comedy Corner on Spotify. And if you go to coopscomedycorner.com, it's a Steve Cooper swag shop. I have, for my business podcast, I have shirts and hoodies and bottles and mugs and all this stuff for the Coop Tank. Also, my other show, Cooper Talk, and for Coop's Comedy Corner. So go buy some swag. We even have doggy swag. You can get some stuff for your dogs. And it's funny, my guest today, he just took off. I guess he didn't want to. He's going to buy swag. I think my guest went to buy swag.
There I am. I was just.
It's funny, people. I was going through. My mom had passed a few months ago, and I found this scrapbook, and I was looking through, and I found an art. Like, they used to do ads for comedy shows, and it was for Tracy's at the Bowman, and it was booked by a guy named Ray Sapola, and it was me and David on the show, and he used to have real spiky hair, and he came up with. He was always funny, and I saw it. And I had him up, and I said, you have to come on the show. So, with no further ado, it's David Kaye. How you doing, David?
Hey, Coop. It is great to see you, my friend. It's been a while.
It's probably been. Last time I probably saw you was 1990, maybe 1992. Because
really, has it been that long?
I was going from the East Coast for over 25 years.
Wow. Well, I guess that's right. When you headed west, I was staying back here on the East Coast doing my thing, doing stand up all over the East Coast area, and you headed out to Los Angeles, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. No. Have you stayed in Pittsburgh the whole? You're a Pittsburgh guy, right? That's where you started comedy.
Yes, I am. I started here in Pittsburgh. That's right. So I started here in Pittsburgh.
When you started, was like Frank Nicotero? Was he around? Was
Frank hadn't started yet. Yeah, Frank hadn't started. I actually, I'll date myself with this. It was 87 when I first started, February of 87, and then I went full time in 1990, and went from there. And then Frank was starting to do open mics when I started doing road gigs. So he came on a little bit later than I did. And a young man.
That was Gardell.
He took off. Billy Gardell. Billy Gardell never did stand up in Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh, but I think he started doing stand-up with Bonkers down in Florida, because I know he's still good friends and still works for Joe Sanfilippo and Margaret Sanfilippo. And he was their man. He was his manager for many moons before Chris DiPetta took over for him. This is all inside information. Nobody's going to know but you and me who I'm talking about. Well, and other comedians that listen to it.
That's all that counts. Okay, that's all that counts. It's all about us. So okay. So what made you get into? So what made you get into comedy? You know, you started in '87. What was your force to get you into comedy? And do you remember your first night on stage?
I do remember my first night on stage, but I will tell you what brought me to the stage in the first place was I had gone through a terrible breakup with a woman who had been living with, and I was despondent. I really was for months, and I was and when I would go to parties, I was literally the guy who would put a lampshade on his head. I mean, I would get drunk and act like an idiot, and my friends are like, "You should do comedy," and I saw it was called a comedy workshop. It was across the street from where the Funny Bone was in Pittsburgh. And they did a Wednesday nights. Every other Wednesday night, they did a comedy workshop. And I went in and watched it. And I'm like, I can do that. And then I signed up. And the 2 weeks went by. And I told my sister I was going to do stand-up. And she told my mom, who told my other sister, who told my aunt, who told my cousins, all my friends. 27 people showed up to see me the first time I did stand-up comedy to do 4 minutes. The owner of the club loved it. I mean, because, there'd be like 9 people there on and everybody was the girlfriends and boyfriends of the people that were going up. That was who came in. So I show up my first time with 27 people. And the owner's like, "Oh, you can come back anytime you want." And I'm like, "Oh, I will," and I sucked horribly. I mean, and I continued to suck horribly for about 18 months. And then finally something clicked and it all started to come together.
What clicked? Because most of the times, like, I had a great first set, and then the second I wasn't good. But I had in Philly, we had some good mentors. The comics, the older guys, they would talk to us. We would hang at the club. We had a few different clubs. But for you, when did you feel like, what happened? What made you change where you started clicking? Because it had to be in you, because you've been working ever since. But what was it? Was it an event, or was it changing material, or what happened?
No, you know what it was? I was just doing stand-up as I was writing material for a character, but I didn't look the part. And one night, I'll never forget it. It was an open mic night at this place called Graffiti in Pittsburgh, and it was late night. I was sweating, and I just I was just frustrated, and I wasn't getting any laughs. And I ran my fingers through my hair, and my hair stood up on end. And I did the rest of my set, and everybody was laughing. And so the following week, I went back, and I'll never forget this server, this waitress at the bar. She said, "Dave, before you go up, I want to do something." And I said, "What?" And I said, "Whatever you want to do." And she took me into the restroom and had a big can of hairspray, a can of Aquanet, and sprayed my hair and made my hair stand on end. And I went out that night. I did my set and freaking crushed it. And that's what happened. I mean, that was the catalyst. And in fact, here it is. You might remember this. Here it is, my very first headshot.
Oh yeah, when I worked with you in Baltimore, you had that
was it.
But see, it's funny. The thing also probably happened is it probably also gave you a lot of confidence, because when I did when I started off, I did stand up. Then I did a nerd character called Steve the Stud, and I pull my pants up to like my waist, and I have a bow tie, and I go out with Banaka and put it in my mouth and put it on my balls. I'd be like, "Are you psyched? Are you psyched?" And I go like that, and it ended up Clay Heary, who owned the Comedy Factory outlet, when Dice Clay was playing there right before he blew up, and he would sell the place out. He's like, they said, "Who's opening for Dice?" And he goes, he used to call me Steve the Stud, and I opened for him, and that character gave me the confidence. But then after a while, I got tired of doing that the character, which is stupid because it was before Urkel, it was before, Screech. I mean, I would have probably gotten a deal somewhere, but it's just funny how it broke once you get the laughs on a consistent basis, if it's the hair or if it's a character, I think gives you more confidence and you get more into feeling great on stage.
Absolutely. It definitely increased my confidence. And I think what for me was it broke away from my actual personality. I mean, I always looked at my character on stage as me like at 11, just cranked up. And when I say 11, I'm making a Spinal Tap reference. So, so cranking it up past 11. And that was my character on stage. In fact, I perfected the character so well that for several years, I would go up if they didn't have an MC on the show and it was just a 2-act show, I would go up in my regular clothes with my glasses on and a baseball cap, and I would open the show as like the cook or just somebody who was a doorman who got, maintenance guy who got asked to open, to bring up the comedians. And I would do like 10 minutes of just really crappy material. But the thing was, the audience was like, oh, it's his first time going up, So they thought that I was this, just some guy going up. And then the feature act would come up. I'd go back to my room or at the condo or wherever I was staying, throw on my clothes, throw on my bright colored suits, make my hair stand up on end, take my glasses off, put my contacts in, and then come back out as that character. And it really was my persona on stage from 88, 89 up until 2000. And then after the millennium, I quit with it.
Well, now, when did you start you said you went full-time in 981, and we had just joked around about like Sharon Rurick and there was Keith Gesser. There's all those runs, As a Pittsburgh, was it hard to get work as a Pittsburgh act? But you did have a funny bone because like there's Philly acts, New York acts, Boston acts. Pittsburgh wasn't really that known. I mean, how did you network to get people to get in contact with these bookers? Because they really weren't familiar with Pittsburgh that much, were they?
Well, I worked out of a Funny Bone in Pittsburgh, and then so many comics came in from out of town that they would say, you should work for so and so, or you should work for Andy Scarpati, or you should work for Ray Sapola down in Baltimore. Ray Sapola, is that what? And Jeff whatever his name is, the guy, he ran the comedy theater in Silver Spring, Maryland. Can't remember the name of that.
I don't know.
Jeff.
I don't know. I know. There's garbage. So you started getting work through them?
Started getting work through them. The Funny Bone had 3 clubs here in Pittsburgh. And then they had a room in Lancaster. So, I mean, I was getting work from them all the time. And then I got in with Garvin's in Washington, D.C., and Lee Nelson and his partner. And they were the ones that started featuring me. That was the first club to feature me. And then I think Tracy's down in Baltimore was probably Carney Maryland was probably the first headline, one of the first places I headlined outside of just like a one-nighter. So, and it just built on that. And, back then, comedians, well, there weren't many of us at all. You know that. I mean, I was, I worked with Drew Carey on a regular basis. I worked with Joey Gutierrez, Elaine Boozler, and Carol Leifer, and all of these comics that were, that would eventually go on to be TV writers, TV TV show stars. I worked with all of them on a regular basis because there were so few. The club scene was so independent that you would just run into people all the time. So I don't know what so that's really how I networked. I networked with comedians from all over the place.
Now, why did you, in 2000 when it changed, why did you give up the character? Was it just something you were tired of it, or did you just, because that was your bread and butter. And if you stop doing that character, it's like anything. Like when a music act goes solo without their band, it can be very scary. So was it did you just say, I'm getting too old to do this kind of character, or was it boring you? Did you feel you outgrew it? What made you change? Because it was a great character. And when people know you and they see David Kaye, they probably like, and all of a sudden they go and you're David Kaye, and you're not like, hey, they probably must, So what happened?
Well, I don't know if you know my full story, but in '92, I was a huge cokehead. I mean, I was completely addicted. I mean, when I started doing stand-up, I was addicted, and I was a party animal, and so for those 5 years, from '87 to '92, I was just like on a run, and coke fueled my act. It fueled every other aspect of my life. So in '92, May of '92, I got arrested for possession with intent to deliver, and it took me. I went. It was 4 years of absolute hell, just going through the court system. I went to fucking trial. I mean, it was crazy. I should have just pleaded guilty and just. But I didn't know. I was like, I was like this. Oh, you don't snitch on nobody, the drug dealer. I was drug dealer mentality, drug addict mentality. And I absolutely said, I'm not going to turn anyone in. And, I owned what I had to do as a drug addict and dealer. And so eventually, after 4 years of trial and appeals court and everything, I had to go to jail. I ended up going to jail for 2 years. I was in prison. State prison for 2 years, from '96 to '98. Went in the week after Easter in '96. Came out. It was the Monday after Easter. Came back out. Got back out. 2 years later, went into a halfway house, and I decided I was going to go back to school. So. The halfway house that I was staying at was right next door to the community college in Pittsburgh. And so I started going back to school. And you know what, Steve? Guess what I decided to go back to school for?
Comedy.
Theater. Yeah. 36 years old, 38 years old, going back to school for fucking theater. Because if you're going to go back to school, Steve, late in life, You should go back to school for something that's going to have greater disappointment, more rejection, and pay less money than you're already making. So that's what I did. I went back to school for theater. And by the year 2000, I was still going to school, and I had outgrown the character. Coming back from prison was very, very sobering. I mean, in more ways than one. I mean, it was a real get your shit together kind of moment for me. So the character, and besides, the suits were all dated. My wardrobe was dated.
So you go back. Now you're doing the.
It was a dated wardrobe.
I know. I remember those suits. It was like looking back at the '80s videos. Now it was like like, you're like Duran shit.
Big suits, the big suits, yeah. It was like David Byrne on stage every time.
So you're getting your degree. You're going to community college for acting, and then how do you get back into stand-up? Because the people, I mean, how comics speak. Probably was like, oh shit, David Kaye's out. Oh, I mean, it's not like Booker's called and said, hey, David, you're out. Come on down and do my show. How did you end up breaking back in? Because you probably just start all over again.
Well, I did have to pretty much start all over again. But believe it or not, I'm staying at a halfway house. And no, I mean, I'm sure you don't know anything. You probably don't know anything about staying at a halfway house because you're a normal human being. So I'm staying at this halfway house. You got to have a full-time job when you're working. You got to pick up some kind of work. So I was going to school at night. I was working at a call center because it was a really easy job. So I'm working at this call center, and I'm like, I'm making shit money, and then I went down. Oh, I know what it was. I was jogging after work one day, and who do I run into but an old comic friend of mine? He was on his way to the Pirates game, and I stopped, and I'm like, Dave? And he's like, Dave? And I'm like, holy shit. I said, he's like, oh, I didn't know you were back out on the streets. And I explained to him, and he said, you should come down to the Funny Bone and do a set. And I started laughing. I'm like, you know what? I think I will. Because I had written material specifically about prison while I was in prison. So I went down, I did an open mic, and imagine trying to explain to your counselor at a halfway house that you want to go back in to do stand-up comedy again. And they're looking at me like, are you fucking nuts? But I did. I started going back, and I certainly couldn't walk out of the halfway house with my hair standing on end, wearing purple suits, So I had to go I just kind of went, just dressed it normally. And that kind of pointed me towards the direction that I needed to go. So again, those different catalysts that helped me make that change.
Now, how did the jail material work? Did it work good for you? Did you actually get up and do the jail material? Because looking at you, people aren't going to say, "Oh, he was in jail. Look at him. He looks like
You know what? Nobody believed it. No one believed that I was in prison. Not one person. Even the prisoners in prison didn't believe that I was in prison. They're like, "You're a fucking counselor. You're like an undercover dude." Nobody in prison believed that I should be in prison.
That's classic, man. It's like 21 Jump Street with comics.
Dude, I shaved my head. And I didn't go skinhead because there was skinheads there, but I wore like a straight up crew cut, like the sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. I had like a straight up like flat top like him, and then I wore a Van Dyke beard that was like this. It came out like this, and I wore these big black rimmed glasses, and I looked like a psychotic. I really did. And that was the only way I could get anybody to believe. I mean, the people that were there to believe that I was actually a prisoner. It was ridiculous. Even the guards were like, "What are you doing here?" What?
It's fine. No, I was gonna say, after you get out and you start doing stand-up, when do you start getting work again? Because I know since then you've had your dry bar special, you do cruises, you book, you do corporate comedy. But what was your turning point when you got out?
Well, when I got back, well, you know what? There were people waiting for me to come back. There were clubs that knew my situation. They were waiting for me to come back, and they allowed me to come back. The Funny Bone was one. There was a club up in Erie called Junior's Last Laugh. I used to go up there. The folks at the folks up in Cleveland at Hilarities, they welcomed me back with open arms. You know, it was just a matter of, you know, trying to rebuild all those bridges that had been burned when I left. When I was getting ready to go to prison, in 96, I had like 26 weeks of work booked in 96 going into 97. Most of those clubs were clubs I'd never headlined before. So I had a guy who was managing my act, and I said to him, I said, "Look, these are all the people that you need to contact. There's 26 different clubs that I'm working. You need to contact every one of them and explain to them." I said, "Doesn't matter what you tell them. Just say that I have to cancel the gig." The motherfucker didn't call one. He did not call one of those people. So every one of them thought that I had just was a no-show. That was the biggest, that was the biggest disappointment for me. Other than having to spend 24 months behind bars, was losing all those connections, losing all that work that I had worked so hard to get, you know?
So you also act. Now I want to hear about the sheet. You posted on Facebook an old Sheetz ad. Weren't you the Sheetz guy? I remember you posted something, because people, if you don't know, Sheetz is sort of like a Wawa. I mean, they're sort of the same idea, I believe. Like there's Sheetz, and there's Eaton Park and Altoona, and there's that. Tell me about the Sheetz, because I remember you were posting pictures of you in a Sheetz uniform, and if I had known you were in jail, I thought maybe that's the job he got when he got out of jail, working at Sheetz. But what happened with the?
It's basically a gas station with food, is what it is. It's just like a Wawa or I guess is it the Circle K? I think is any one of those ones, roadside gas stations with food. But Sheetz is based out of Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I had a commercial agent, and she contacted me. She said, "We're doing this shoot," and that thing was in 2018. And those sons of bitches, they still run that damn thing. They still use all of our images, and I guess I don't recall signing it, but I'm quite sure the contract said ad infinitum as far as the how long they can use it, you know. So when Sheetz are on the planet Mars, they'll still be using my image for the if you want to get a job there.
Was it a hard audition, or was there a lot of actors out of Pittsburgh? Carnegie Mellon's in Pittsburgh, which is a great acting school. But I mean, you said alternative, but how did you get caught up in that?
It was a still shoot. It was a still photos. The whole shoot was still photos. I mean, they did some video, but everything we did was still photo. And you know what, Sheetz were the one that picked me. So I don't know, you know, I guess I just fit the look of a guy down on his luck, but still lives half glass full.
Now during this time, have you ever thought of leaving the Pittsburgh area? Has LA or New York ever creeped into your mind, or because you went through a lot of the jail, and after that, I mean, before and after that, you had to restart. I mean, have you ever felt you might want to make that move, or do you feel the security because, you know, you've been through a lot and this is where you're from?
Well, I know before I went to the big house, I was in LA a lot. I mean, New York was closer, but I had a lot of connections in New York. I had a lot of friends, or in LA. So I had a lot of people that lived out there. So I used to go. I would spend, you know, 6-8 weeks at a time out in LA before I went to prison. And then I started going back afterwards. After I started back going to school. In, you know, from like 99, 2000, I was still going out there, but it was just too much, you know. I mean, it would have been too much of it. I mean, I was still under the auspices of state parole at that point, so I didn't even get off of parole till 2002. So making that move was just too much. You know, getting the go ahead to leave the state was too much. So and then I started my production company because with my theater degree, I thought, well, you know what, it would probably be a good idea. I mean, since I'm doing production anyhow, I wasn't acting. Most of the stuff that I was doing was scenic design and stage craft. So I was doing that, and you know, but of course, you know, with the actor mentality, with the stand-up comic mentality, you have to have irons in the fire all the time. So, you know, you're constantly trying to heat something up. So I just kept every iron in the fire, and then when acting gigs would come along, I'd get an acting gig or a commercial. Or I don't do that so much anymore, though. It's just again, too much disappointment and too much just having to continue to just audition. I hate having to audition all the time. You know, I mean, as a stand-up,
I was going to tell you about auditioning, and I think I told the story in the show before. Calvin Harris was this big DJ, and I got cast in his video. So I had to go to the audition, and I asked my agent, I go, what role is it? And she says, creepy guy. So I go in the role as creepy guy, and I'm like, what? She goes, well, at least you're not creepier guy. And I walk in, and that's the thing. Like, we have an idea of what we look like. And then you go in and you see who I'm in the room with auditioning against. And you're like, oh my God, like it can be very, you know, it can knock you down a few pegs. Cause you know, you think you're like, hey, I'm a leading man. Then you come and you go, I'm not even like, I'm like the guy in the jail, you know, who's in the back cleaning the toilet.
Yes.
And all the scenes like, hey, come on.
You know, what's funny about that is.
No, go ahead.
I always thought that I had that leading man look, but if you look at my commercial resume, it's like used car salesman, sleazy insurance agent, you know, creepy guy, or here was one that I got cast as. In a short film Here's one: slave trader and pedophile priest.
You haven't lived till you have a pedophile piece and a slave trader. That's hacking.
Two separate rules.
No,
Two separate rules.
Where were these commercials out of? Were they local into Pittsburgh, or were you getting?
I was getting mostly local, but I've had such a varied work history that I got my SAG card because I was working for, I took a job while I was at school, while I was at Pitt getting my degree in theater. I took a job working, doing morning production for a morning radio show. And so for a year from 2002 to 2003, I was working for a union station. So I got my SAG and AFTRA card. Well, I got my AFTRA card, then SAG picked up AFTRA. And so now I've been I've had my SAG card since 2003. So, I mean, do I get a chance to use it other than to pay to use my yearly dues as a deduction on my Schedule C form? No, that's it. That's all I did. It's I pay my dues, and every once in a while somebody will call me up and say, "Do you want to audition for something?" And I'll go in. But it's been a while since I've had a SAG role.
Now, when did you start doing corporate comedy? Because I know you do corporate comedy. I know that's something, and that's, people say it's a very good gig when you get it. But what made you get into that? Because that's completely, explain, when you do corporate comedy, do you have to do a completely different act for the corporation that hires you, or how does it work?
I try to, when I do a corporate show, I sell it to them as a fully customized show for them. Whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, I have a format that I created that I I have bullet points in my format that I go through, and then I write material specifically for that. And then what I'll do is I'll adapt some of the material that I use in my regular act, the clean material. I'll adapt that for their product or service. So that's how I do it. I'm sure that people go in and just do their regular act all the time, but for me, I just found that I could charge a higher rate if I customized every event for them. So that's what I do. It's just that simple.
How does it compare to the club vibe, though? Because it's just, sometimes when it's a corporate thing, you get a bunch of corporate assholes at one table, or things like that. As a performer, can you sense the shitty vibe sometimes? Like, because some people
you can sense it every time.
Drink, eat their food. So how do you get through it?
This is my favorite. This is my favorite part. When the CEO decides to just spring it on them last minute. Hey, instead of having the DJ, I decided to bring in a comedian, and here he is now. And after he just does their quarterly financial report, I get to go up and go, "Hey, everybody, I'm the comedian," and they're like, they don't want to hear me. They don't want to hear it. But then you have to. But that's on occasion. That's not it most of the time. Usually they have the itinerary, it's printed out in a program, and so exactly what you're supposed to do. And I've been given material that I work with from the company, and then I incorporate all that into my. It's more of a presentation than it is a performance. So I think that's what they're expecting. Oftentimes I'll use a podium, which I don't like to use, but oftentimes I will, just so that I can have all my note cards and my information in front of me to look to. But there's some guys there's some comics out there. There's one guy, he was on America's Got Talent. He's like the PowerPoint comedian. I can't remember the guy's name, but
Don McMillan. Don McMillan. He went to my high school. Don McMillan.
Oh.
He grew up in the neighborhood behind me. An older guy.
Oh, get out of here! Oh well, there. He has made a career out of that PowerPoint comedy presentation, and it's genius. It really is, because especially when you go into a place that's works in finance or someplace that's an engineering company. Those people, they like are drawn to that shit. You know, that you show them a pie chart or a graph and they're like, ooh. So I hope no corporate people see this.
Funny thing about that guy, Don McMillan, he, as I said, he graduated high school with my older sister, and he won the San Francisco comedy competition years ago, but he made a ton of money. He was the Bud Light guy who would deliver the Bud Light in a commercial. He was like, he went to like 3 Super Bowls. He had all these national commercials back when national commercials made lots of money. Like not now, like they're all non-union. But that was his first break. But he got that because he's an engineer. He was an engineer. So it's just funny.
Yes, he was. That's right.
Now, do you do cruises at all?
I haven't done them for a while. I was doing them for a while, but for me there were 2 things that happened for me. My daughter, when was I started doing them in like 2013, 2014. But my daughter was like 10 or 11 years old right around that time, and it was just a really bad time for me to be away on extended periods of time. So that was one of the things that drew me off of the cruises. But the second thing that drew me off, which is really the main reason, was I was working for Dawn Casino. I don't know if you've heard of Dawn Casino. They're a huge cruise. They book everything, big magic acts, variety acts, dancers, the whole thing, So I was working for them on this cruise line called Bahama Celebration. It was a really low-end, shitty cruise ship. The crew bar literally reminded me of the bar in Star Wars, that first bar that they go into. I mean, right. It really was like that. The ship that we were on, they not only did they cruise to the Bahamas, they cruised in and out of Freeport, but they also brought produce and goods back and forth, right? So I mean, they'd load shit up on while the people are out there doing stuff on their excursion, they're loading stuff into the hull, into the cargo bay of the ship. And what they would do is they would drive cars onto them, and they would strip those cars back and while they were on the ship, while they were going between Florida and the Bahamas, they would strip the cars. That's the kind of ship it was. So I was supposed to go. I had worked a couple of weeks in like August through September, and I had some I had a couple more cruises I was scheduled for in November, and I call up my agent and I said, "Hey, Bruce," I said, you want to give me the information, what dates I'm getting? And he's like, yeah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that, Dave. I'm like, what happened? Well, they're having some problem with the ship. And I'm like, well, what happened to the ship? He's like, oh, you didn't hear the news? It sunk. I'm like, what? They literally hit a reef ripped a big hole in the side of the ship, and they scrapped it. It was an old beat up German ship, and they scrapped it. And but the beauty of it is, they hit the reef. It was on Halloween Day, 2014. You can look this up on the internet. There's videos. All the people, they're all dressed in their costumes, and they're all going down to the ballroom for the big a Halloween ball. And all of a sudden, the ship like shakes, and then the sirens start going, meh, 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 and the ship starts to list. All these people in their costumes thought that was part of the Halloween festivity. They thought this was like, wow, this is. So nobody was taking it seriously. Nobody took it seriously. And then when they saw people like the crew members running up and get starting to man the lifeboats, that's when they're like, oh shit, we're sinking. But that was the cruise ship that I had been working on, and so after that I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to try and work the cruise ships anymore. So I have my production company, and that's what I do.
But tell me about your dry bar special, because you had a dry bar special, and
yes,
2023, I believe. Tell me about that, and how did that come about?
It came out in 2023. I filmed it in April of 2021. A good buddy of mine, Jeff Shaw, and I don't know if you know Jeff. Really funny comic. Real high voice. He has. It sounds like he sounds like a gal. He sounds like a girl when he's talking, and great act. Really funny, smart guy. And he had done one back in like 2018, and it was getting huge hits. You know, I mean, he's getting lots of play on his dry bar special. And Jeff and I had been working together. I'd been booking him on a bunch of shows, and so he said, "Look, I'm going to get you in contact with these people." And then the pandemic hit, and we couldn't do it. And then when the pandemic, when they were coming back, he called me up and he's like, Dave, you got to contact this booker. They're looking for people to do the dry bar. And dude, we hadn't been doing stand-up for a year, at that time. So they were looking for people that thought they were ready to go back. And I thought it was. When I went back, there were only 35 people in the audience. They're seated 6 feet apart. And I didn't think I was ready. I mean, my dry bar compared to what other people's got as far as like views is way down. You can tell because I seem like I'm hesitating on my bits. I didn't feel. I don't think I looked sure on my feet, but the experience itself, wow, it was fantastic. You were treated like a king. You were treated like royalty from the moment that you walked through the door to the moment that you walked out. I mean, it was just as professional, and they were gracious, and the makeup people and the costumers. I mean, everybody there was just top notch. It really is a really well-run machine. So and then it took 2 years for it to come out.
I've always heard that. I've heard it takes a while for them to come out.
I think it all depends. I think if your material is timely, or if there's something that that's really special about that act, I think they will push that to the front of production, because they want to get high quality material out. And if they get somebody who looks like they're about to pop, on the club market, they'll push that one through. But then some of them, they'll tell comics outright, this will never air. They'll tell them straight to their face. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They'll tell them, oh yeah, you get paid. Yeah, you definitely get paid. You can make more money as long. I mean, I get a quarterly report as to my views and how much money I've earned from the show, but you got to earn back your production cost. They pay you up front for your talent, for your performance, but then if you to get additional additional revenue from it, you have to get enough advertising revenue and hits and views to I guess to get back what they consider what the cost of the production is. And I think it's about $11,000. So the first 11,000 after you film it goes directly to them, and then you start to get your residuals after that. Now, I mean, if you're getting 5 million hits, 10 million views on your special, you're definitely going to get money back. But I mean, somebody like me with less than 100,000 views of the full special, it's going to take me 25 years to make that. And by that time, they'll be like, he's dead.
Now, you book a lot of clubs, but we're not going to mention any names. But tell me the story. And I saw this happen on Facebook about how you won a comedy club in Allentown.
Oh my
God. You got to tell the story.
It was during the pandemic. I know, was it during the pandemic? It was the 2020 election. Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah, it's because the election happened during the pandemic, right? Yeah. We were already 9 months into the pandemic when the election hit. So, I mean, you know how the conspiracy theories were going on after that, because Biden won, but Trump was somehow going to regain the presidency before January 20th, 2021. So this booker, who also had a comedy club out in Allentown, she was like this crazy conspiracy theorist who said that Donald Trump was going to regain the presidency on such and such a date. And I just laid in with every kind of, you are nuts, crazy, not going to happen, and then, the day came along and nothing happened. Then again, she just like started putting all this stuff up on Facebook. And then she said, I will bet you my comedy club that Trump is back in office and Biden is arrested, in February. And I said, I will take that bet. And I cut and pasted exactly what she wrote, and I put it up online, and then everybody started watching it. And we up until the date, we're all waiting. Finally, the date happens. Biden's still in office. Nobody's arrested. And then she kind of just ghosts me, won't respond. So I start like raising the bar every time. Still haven't heard. Where's that? Where's my club? Finally, she went ahead and she sends me an email and concedes that she was wrong, doesn't put it on Facebook, concedes she was wrong, and gives me the information for the club location and who I need to contact. And she's like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And as soon as she said that, I'm like right back on Facebook. Like, here's the club, you know. And I contacted the people, and it was the hotel was a piece of shit. It was in a hotel. It was a piece of shit hotel. It had been, comics have been saying, you don't want that place. You don't want to work there. You don't want to go. And then I just said, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna. I want it, but I'm not gonna go back and open that club back up. So that's the story. That is the story. It was so ridiculous, and it went on and on for like months. It was hysterical. I swear to God, that was like my big thing during the pandemic was trolling people who were, conspiracy theorists, because what did you have to do during the pandemic but sit there and mock people? I'm sure some people made their lives better. I'm sure people some people, went on a diet or decided to change their lifestyle or do something to make their life better, but not stand-up comedians. We didn't do that. We just hunkered down and decided we gotta take it out on somebody.
Nowadays with your stand-up, not the club in Allentown, but you book a lot of rooms now and you do a lot of benefits. Is that something, do you get pleasure out of that? Do you enjoy doing that? Because I know when I book shows, I always have that thing, like you think, and I also book a big networking event. And I have sponsors for the networking events. I'm always thinking, what if people don't show up? And I always feel bad, even though comics don't really care, but you think, so do you enjoy booking the comedy shows?
I find that booking the shows, I like to build a show that I know is going to work, so that that people will want to come back. And that's the thing with these one-off shows that I do, because they're not weekly. If you're doing a destination club and you're there every week, everybody knows what to expect. They go in. They do, they know what the routine is. But when you're doing shows like mine, where they're one-offs, or they're like, I do monthly shows at some of the venues that I do. If you don't do a good show, if you don't produce a good show, people aren't coming back. So I have to make sure that every show is going to be great. That people are going to go, wow, that was better than last month. So I like to be able to build that show, and I like to be able I like greeting people and getting them seated and being their host, because that's really what I am. I'm hosting them at my venue, at my party, at my comedy party. And but I use my comedy club shows really as a way to promote and talk about my fundraising events. So that's my fundraising is really like 80% of my revenues every year. Comedy's 20%. And with comedy nights, if you're running an independent comedy show, and I do, it's like the hotel gets the food and beverage, I get the door, and that's it. So I got to make sure I get people through the door. So if you don't, then you take a hit. But knock wood, I've been pretty good since the pandemic. Since coming back from the pandemic, I was able to rebuild. So it's my fan base is pretty good. I've got a lot of regulars that come through, and they bring more and more people. So I do enjoy it, do I want to continue doing it? I don't know how long I can continue to do it, carrying stuff in and out, setting up stages. Ugh, it's a lot.
Screw that. So, Dave, I'm going to ask you this question. I ask this question in all my shows. Looking back at your career, and this could be professional or personal, what are a few things you're proud of in your life? What are a few things you're proud of?
Well, I think in my personal life, I'm proud of two things. Number one is my daughter. Although her mother and I divorced when she was like 4 or 5, we raised an amazing person, amazing woman. And so I'm really proud that I was able to be a good father and a great parent, and to be present all the time. So that's probably my biggest proudest achievement. And then right behind that would be the fact that I've got 30 years of sobriety. That was able to, and having that, I was able to create this child, create this person who, and guide this person without ever having seen me, in an altered state. And so those are like my two personally, those are my two biggest achievements, proudest of. And then there's that degree in theater. That was a real career changer. That was a real life changer there.
Hey, it changed your life.
It did. Yeah, I did. I did enjoy going back to school, but I think career-wise, I think the fact that I've just been consistent. I think having, very few people can say that they stayed in the same business and were able to be successful in it. I mean, look at these blinds. I was able to afford blinds.
They're Venetian blinds.
They're very,
there you go.
And they're long. They're long Venetian blinds. They weren't cheap, but I was able to create a business making people laugh. I mean, my God, how many people get a chance to can really say that they achieved their, I'm old. I'm going to be old enough to get Social Security soon, and collect Medicare and or get on Medicare, which, I mean, I can't believe I've spent this much time just doing stand-up comedy. I mean, I made a career out of it. And I did it, you know what? And it's funny because I did it in relative anonymity, relative obscurity. I planted a flag in this area, and I'm known in my area for what I do. And so, yeah, I mean, I need to be. I have to remind myself to be proud of that, because most of the time I'm wondering, what did I ever get done? What have I accomplished? So you have to remind yourself.
What? You've accomplished a lot. So there you go. See that? That was good. Now tell people, how can they get in touch with you? How can people find what's going on with you? Website, whatever.
Well, yeah, you can go to if you want to see me professionally. You can go to slapsticksproductions.com. That's slapsticks with an S, productions with an S.com. I'm not going to give you my phone number. Oh, I give you the office phone, but nobody calls on the phone. And then, or if you want to go to my my comedy website, it's David Kaye, and that's Kaye, davidkcomedy.com. And
all right, so people, go Google his Dry Bar special on YouTube and watch it. Watch it. If you help, maybe in 21 years he can make some money off it. You know,
that's right. Thank God. If I can only get more people to watch it now.
So people do that. Also, I want to give a shout out to my producer, Jimmy Corhan. Jimmy does great things in the comedy community in Philadelphia with Comedy Trainwreck Productions. You know, my show, The Wid and John Kensel have their show. Coleman Green has a show. There's a bunch of shows going on there. And he has a bunch of different new shows coming up all the time. You can find all the past Coop's Comedy Corner on YouTube. Also, you can find my business podcast, The Coop Tank, where I moderate 3 local business people on YouTube. And if you go to coopertalk.net, you can find over 1,045 episodes of my other show, Cooper Talk. I just interviewed Chris Sarandon today, who was in The Princess Bride and in Dog Day Afternoon. So it's a great show. And don't forget, coopscomedycorner.com to get Coop's Comedy Corner, Cooper Talk, or the Coop Tank swag. I want to thank you all for watching. Look up David Kaye. Go check out Comedy Trainwreck. I'm Steve Cooper. You have a great night.
Coop's Comedy Corner.